In the United States Army on Thursdays, there's an activity known as Sergeant's Time Training. Let me explain it. What's up, friends? Welcome to an all new video. In this one, I'm talking about Sergeant's Time Training. Now, if you're watching this on the day that this video came out, it happens to be Thursday, so I thought it was very appropriate because probably if you're watching this on Thursday, there's probably some units out there in the United States Army that are doing Sergeant's Time Training right now. And so I'm going to talk to you about what is involved with this activity that is done on Thursday. Now, I think this activity has bounced around before. Sometimes it was moved to Friday, then went back to Thursday, and I don't know, maybe if you're watching this in the future, maybe they moved it to Tuesday, I don't know. But right now, Sergeant's Time Training is typically conducted on Thursdays. So let me explain what happens on Thursday for Sergeant's Time Training. As I said, this typically happens every Thursday, unless there's some kind of big mission going on, you're in the field or something like that, then you might not be doing it. But if you're just in garrison, you're back in, your main unit, and it's just a normal week or whatever, then typically on Thursday they have it kind of allocated to do some kind of training. Now, this will start off really early in the morning. Sometimes it'll start off just the normal PT time at 6:30, and there's a lot of other times where it'll start off even earlier than that, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning, maybe 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's how it'll start. I've had a lot of times where we started off doing like road marches, times where we started off doing some combatives. Just kind of really just, depends on what it is that they kind of want to do. But something physical at the very beginning other than the normal PT, because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Friday, you just do a normal PT in the Army Physical Fitness uniform, going on a run, doing some push-ups and sit-ups. Whereas this Thursday, you're in just normal battle combat uniform, right? Your normal ACUs with boots and everything, maybe even full gear, and you're doing something physical that way, whether it's combatives or like a road march. Road march is probably the more typical one that a lot of units usually do. The advantage of doing like a road march is you can road march out to where the training is going to be. So maybe you're gonna have on a rucksack, you got some route planned to be however many miles, and maybe it loops over towards where you're gonna do training at, and that's where a lot of units like to try to, kind of involve it that way. Now, after that physical activity, you usually move into that training. Sometimes they'll break for breakfast, maybe give soldiers a chance to go shower, maybe change into a different uniform, or it'll just roll straight into it. Maybe you've packed an MRE as part of that road march or whatever you were doing, and then you're having an MRE for breakfast and then rolling straight into training rather than stopping, going to the chow hall or going to get somewhere, to eat for breakfast. You're just going straight into it and have to have an MRE for breakfast. So this training is led by non-commissioned officers. There typically is not going to be any officers around in the area. Non-commissioned officers are going to be the ones in charge. They're going to be the ones leading this training. They're going to be the ones teaching some kind of class or kind of leading the training in that way. Officers typically take off and go do their own thing together, maybe something with the company commander for those platoon leaders, in that platoon, and they'll kind of stay away. But I have seen sometimes where platoon leaders might be around just to make sure that the NCOs are, doing some kind of productive training, but that really just depends. But most commonly, I've usually seen officers staying away from Sergeant's Time Training because that's an NCO thing. Now, as far as what type of training maybe happens during Sergeant's Time Training, well, there's a lot of different opportunities, one of them being usually something out of this book. This is an older one, so I don't know if it still looks like this. This is from August of 2003 edition, but this is a Soldier's Manual of Common Tasks. And common soldier tasks are usually something that is involved with that Sergeant's Time Training. So usually everybody has one of these books, we're pulling it out and we're doing some kind of task out of this as one of the common things that they'll do during Sergeant's Time Training. Looks like I guess some old stuff still bookmarked in here from doing some training. Looks like my last page was some land nav training, looks like. And then I got some pages, looks like from maybe the last time I did some training. Looks like we got some 9-line medevac kind of cheat sheet, some deployment training guidance, and just a couple of copies of medevac and that training guidance, I guess. Hey, how about that? Protractor. These things are hard to come by sometimes. So maybe at some point I got to go through this book and maybe whip out some training for you guys out of this sucker. So other times when they're not doing training just strictly out of that common task kind of guide, then you're either doing things like maybe MOS related training. So like me as an 88 Mike, we would do maybe some kind of convoy training, maybe we would do some, reacting to an IED training, a lot of different things. This is really the time to kind of work on MOS type of skills if you're not doing something out of that common task thing that just every soldier is supposed to know about. Now this training would often also be used to kind of try to get the experience for those newer NCOs, those newly promoted sergeants, get them a chance to teach a class. Maybe you would go and hand something off to one of them, maybe something simple to kind of start off with or whatever, and be like, hey, I need you to teach this class, I'm going to teach this class, and these other people are going to teach these ones. But you kind of want to let those new sergeants kind of have a chance to get that experience, because that's part of the job of a non-commissioned officer, is teaching those lower enlisted soldiers, how to do things with their job or how to do common tasks. So a lot of times that would happen, as well as maybe, trying to push maybe some high-speed specialists that at some point going to be a non-commissioned officer, and have one of them maybe teach a class as well. Now, this training could potentially last all day, but I remember like at one point in time, they used to have a set schedule for when it started and when it ends. There are some units that still kind of do this, but I've also seen other units not do this and just train the entire day. Because it used to be a thing where you would train up until maybe like noon, break for lunch maybe have to do an MRE for lunch as well, it just kind of depends. And then from 1300 or 1 p.m. to about 1500 or 3 p.m., you would have to do like motor pool cleanup. You'd have to be sweeping the line, checking the vehicles, doing some different, cleanup things. And then by 1500, you'd have some kind of formation and be released for the day. And this would be called family time. So 1500 for the rest of the day was supposed to be your time to spend with your family. If you were single, then it's just, some free time for you. I even had some units that were really strict on this 1500 rule. So they would go and they would lock up the motor pool at 1500. They would have a formation, and then from there, the sergeant major would be kicking everybody out of the motor pool and telling everybody to go home. He says, I better not see any of you having additional formations out in the parking lot. I better not see you guys going back to your work areas unless it was already approved by me. You guys need to be going home, spending time with your family, having a good time and all that stuff. And there's a couple units, like my very first unit when I was in Kansas was pretty strict like that, but that was in the early 2000s. So some of that has changed a little bit, but there are some units that are still pretty, pretty big on making sure that people get that soldier time, that family time after sergeant's time training. I think my favorite sergeant's time training that I can really remember was there was a time when we kind of incorporated that physical activity with some additional training. So we started off kind of road marching, and you stayed with your squad, and you had to do like land navigation. So you were kind of navigating from one point to another point. Once you got to that end point, there was another NCO that was there to teach a class, and you would sit there for that class for 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, and then after the class was over, he would give you, or she would give you, like a grid to go on to, and then you as a squad would move out to that grid and kind of do a little bit of land nav and road marching to get to that next grid where the next class would be. And that was kind of a fun time. I kind of enjoyed that type of sergeant's time training that incorporated the activity along with the educational part of it. So for any of my viewers out there that are veterans or currently in the Army, what's your favorite sergeant's time training that you can remember? And for my viewers out there that are maybe not yet in the Army, or even just not even going to join the Army ever, they're just kind of interested in watching these videos for whatever reasons, this is almost like chaos time training, because these are my explanation videos that I do on Thursdays that are usually some kind of explanation about something in the Army, so it's kind of like chaos time training. So what's a topic that you might be interested in? Leave it down in the comments down below. Maybe it could motivate an idea for a future video on Thursday. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Make sure to check out some of the links down in the description. I got links to my social media as well as a P.O. box if you want to send me some letters. Thanks so much for watching. I'm ThatChrisChaos, and I'll see you next time. See ya.